Okay, on today's episode, and I'm smiling, I'm sniggering because it's Travis Morrow. For those of you who know, or for those of you who don't know, me and Travis had a debate live on stage at the Fidessa European Conference. Travis was pro automation and I was against automation. It's not so much that I was against automation per se, but I was against relying on it. I thought that we need to mix and match. And obviously, because I have changed my approach and my thoughts and my feelings about this, and now we are opening a completely manless facility, I knew full well that I had to get Travis back on the podcast. For one, I couldn't open an automated facility and not actually talk to Travis and say that, listen, you was right, buddy, I was wrong, and eat a little bit of humble pie. And I'll be honest, I wasn't looking forward to, I love Travis. I think he's an absolutely fantastic guy. And I'm looking forward to admitting I'm wrong. And yeah, he was so humble and everything. And so, yeah, I have a bit of humble pie on this podcast because I believe that my stance, and if I'm honest, I'm a little bit embarrassed by my stance because my stance normally is I'm always forward thinking. I'm always looking at what will come next and how can I be the first to market in something, or how can I be in front of my competitors? What can I do that other people are too scared of doing? And with automation, I was completely, I was just completely against it. I was against it. And the more and more, it wasn't just because of COVID as well. The more and more I think about it, the more and more logical it is, the more and more it will happen. I know it will happen. So yeah, I wanted to get Travis on the podcast. Anyway, you haven't come here to listen to me talk about automation. You've come here to talk to Mr. Automation himself, Travis. He was a great guest and I know you're going to enjoy it. And yeah, as soon as we're going down the automation route, I knew I had to get him back on. So thank you, Travis, for your time. And yeah, I'll get straight to the interview. So here is Travis Morrow. Well, part two, Travis Morrow, welcome to the podcast, buddy. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back, Dean.
My absolute pleasure, mate. So for people who didn't hear your interview last time, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, so I am in Tucson, Arizona. I'm the president of National Self-Storage Management, and I'm also the CEO of a co-op in the industry called Store Local. At National Self-Storage, we have 10 facilities throughout the Southwest United States, and we are, as we discussed on the last podcast, big proponents of facility automation. We built a facility in Tucson, 636 units, and that facility is 97% leased up now and running as solid as anything. And so we've actually started expanding that automation into retrofitting some of our other facilities, which we can talk about a little later. But I'll let you talk about how you and I got to know one another originally.
I just want to gloss over that, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm joking. So I was going to say, let's confront the elephant in the room. Most people listening to this will know that we actually did a debate on the stage of the European Fidessa conference about automation. You was pro automation and I was against automation. And I've got to say, Travis, this is probably the one interview that I didn't want to do because obviously as times have changed, a lot of listeners will know that I am 100% behind the automation now. And yeah, so I wanted to take this opportunity, buddy, and actually say that you was right and I was wrong about the whole thing. But now I'm totally behind it. And yeah, it's one of those things, buddy. Times change.
Well, they absolutely do, and COVID, opened people's eyes to a lot of the necessity for touchless rentals or contactless rentals. But, as I said when we were on stage, I still believe that that's where the customer experience is going anyways.
Yeah, I agree.
And be able to use the phone as much as we all use our phones to do everything in our lives. For us not to be able to use our phone at a storage facility to access our units, we're just not providing the best experience to the customer. And customers, as time goes on, are going to, want that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I do, although I do think COVID certainly accelerated it in the UK, the potential for technology to be used in the self-storage industry. I do think you're 100% right. And the fact that it was going that way as well, there's no doubt about it, it was going that way as well. And COVID might have accelerated it. Are you still as passionate, obviously, about automation as you was before? Or are you more passionate now because of what's happened around the world?
Well, I would say I am more passionate about it. You know, when we had to really change our operations when, you know, in Arizona or Texas, there were quarantines in place initially during the summer. At my facility in Arizona, I really didn't have any concerns about shutting down my office because I knew that the automation that I had in place would allow customers to still do all the business they needed to do with me and to have access to their units without necessarily having to interact with my managers. And so, you know, we were able to feel comfortable at that location, you know, letting it set it and forget it kind of. At our other locations where we still had managers, and that was our primary source of interacting with our tenants and having to go take locks off and put locks on and still do those sort of normal manager activities, it was a little bit more of a challenge. And so we have actually, in the last month, at our Texas locations, I've got 5 stores there, and at 200 units at each store, we've added the Noki One product and did the retrofit. And over the next 12 months, we're going to do the rest of the units at those facilities.
Wow.
And so should we be faced with a similar situation in the future, all of my facilities are going to be really prepared to deal with that. And so I think that just increased my support for automation in self-storage.
Yeah, I tell you what, Travis, that must have been so comforting for you to know that your manless facility could operate with no real disruption at all. I know in England we are so far behind this curve, as you know, and a lot of the self-storage facilities was all tripping over ourselves trying to get the e-sign. That's all we was up to, the electronic signature, and we are so far behind now. There's webinars all about automation now and how we all get on this boat, because I do believe that everybody is now coming around to your way of thinking, including myself. And I am so excited about it. I'm passionate about it. And I can 100% see where you was coming from. And it probably has, if I'm honest, it probably has taken COVID to open my eyes to see what's possible and to really accelerate where I'm coming from. I mean, so much so, Travis, that I was very, very close to buying a facility. But the problem is that this facility couldn't have no key. Because of the old-fashioned doors, it just couldn't have no key technology at all. I pulled out of that deal, and that was one of the major reasons, because I couldn't get no key technology. I couldn't make it manless, and it's changed my focus completely on where I want to go as a business owner in self-storage. I now only want to buy facilities or open facilities where I can do the manless operation, and where I'm super passionate about the one that we're opening in August, where it's going to be a 22,000 square foot site, all indoor, and it is going to be all manless, and we're going to have nobody on site at all. All the calls are going to go through to a call center, and I'm just so excited about it. And I know a lot of people in the UK are looking at this as well. Could you give us a run through of exactly the process, the customer journey, what happens when they come to your manless facility? So first of all, they go to your website, they might get a quote. What happens next if they want to rent the unit? How do they do the process? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, so we're able to, self-storage was deemed essential. And so we were able to still have somebody in the office. I still have somebody in the office, but our office hours are shrunk down dramatically.
Yeah.
But when people come in through the website, you know, I watch them on camera do it from their phone on like a holiday or on a Sunday when we don't have anybody in the office at all. they go to our website and they're able to select the unit that they want. And our move-in process takes them through a few steps. They enter the basic contact information, but then we actually have the ability with our technology through our sister company, Tenant Inc., to actually gather the person's driver's license information and
really?
compare that to a selfie that they take. And the software looks at the selfie, looks at the driver's license photo, and compares 128 points and confirms that the person that is in the selfie matches the person that's in the driver's license. So we're able to at least know that this is the person that we're dealing with. And then it offers them the tenant protection program that we have, and they're able to pay their rent, sign the lease, handle all of that through the website. Once that's completed, the customer gets a text message and says, download the Noki app. They download the app, they enter a little access code that's given to them in the text message. And from that point on, they have access to the facility and their specific unit, and they can move in.
Wow, that's incredible. So is it Tenant Inc. That
Yes.
software?
Yes.
I'll put a link in the show notes as well for that, because that seems incredible. That's one step ahead of what I've heard about and what I've seen myself as well. So basically, they're comparing the picture to the driving license that you can download, that your software automatically compares, and therefore you know it's the correct person, and therefore you can move forward because you've done all the security checks on that person.
Right. Well, security checks to the extent of you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
And so, but we at least, one of the big concerns for self-storage operators about doing online transactions in general is a lot of operators want to see, well, I want them to come into my office. I want them to hand me their driver's license. I want to stare at the whites of their eyes and confirm if they are a good or bad tenant, which is impossible to do. But this system at least gives operators a little bit of comfort that when they're doing business with somebody online, that the person in the picture is the person on the driver's license, and at least we know that. Whether or not they're the greatest tenant in the world, we'll figure that out when they pay their bill every month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that some people listening to this, because I'm a big advocate of insurance, so then they automatically select their insurance for that particular unit. How do you make sure that they're correctly insuring their goods? Because do you have a minimum insurance? Because a lot of people would just go for the minimum insurance, and we're a great believer of correctly insuring your goods. And in terms of revenue management, that really helps us as a company gain a fair chunk of revenue, because it's correct by them and correct by us as well, because we're gaining revenue, but also the customer is correctly insuring the goods if anything goes wrong. So how do you do that? How do you make sure that, how do you monitor it?
So we have videos in the move-in process that kind of explain protection or insurance and the different levels. Our leases actually have a cap on the insured, or a cap on the value of what they are supposed to be storing. So we say you shouldn't store more than $5,000 worth of stuff in the unit. If you do, there's a separate process where they can buy more insurance than $5,000.
Yeah.
And so, do people follow that? No, of course not. Yeah. But it provides us protection in the event there was a loss. That, okay, well, you only bought $2,000 worth of coverage. You're telling me you had $10,000 worth of stuff in the unit. The lease says that you should only store $5,000 worth of stuff in the unit. So we have a couple layers of, okay, you have coverage, here's $2,000. We won't go over that. And even if we decided to go over that, or they wanted to sue us, for example, the lease tells the judge that, well, they shouldn't get more than $5,000, period.
Yeah.
Because that's what was agreed to in the lease. So that's an important tip and protection for operators listening to this, is having some kind of limit of liability in your lease.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, we've just had a similar situation. Actually, I don't actually believe I've mentioned on the podcast before. We have containers outside in our car park, and one of the customers, it was just outside of the CCTV, so we couldn't see it, and that was my fault because we extended and got more containers, and we didn't realise that we had actually. Not increase the coverage with the CCTV. So it was my fault. And the customer realized this. He knew that was the case. And so one day he came in and says, just to let you know, my container's been broken into last night. And we had no alarms go off. There was no cut lock. There was no evidence whatsoever of a break-in. And we said, what did you have in? And honestly, Travis, he actually said 30 iPads, 20 MacBook Pros. I was like, what? Have you got an invoice for these? Have you got a receipt? And you do know that you're only covered for £5,000 because that's the amount of insurance you've got. And he goes, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know I was only covered for £5,000. And we said, listen, I tell you what, we want to be fair. Make sure you bring back the receipts to prove that you've had what you've had in, because apparently these was all new. He'd only just put them in because we have a limit of £30,000 in the containers that you're allowed to actually store. And obviously that is way more. And he's never, ever actually got back to us about the breaking again. But he knew that we weren't on cameras because he said, oh, just so you know, I know your cameras don't cover my unit. So he was definitely trying it on. But I mean, he went so much overboard that it was completely unrealistic to ever store that sort of amount of belongings in there. So you have an actual cap for the insurance, and you don't let people have more than £5,000 inside the unit on the lease. Is that correct?
That's the limit of our liability.
Yeah.
Per the lease. And so we have $2,000, $3,000, and $5,000 coverages that we offer them during the move-in process. And so they, pay $9, $10, $12 for that.
Yep. And in terms of automation in America, because of what's happened with COVID, then are you seeing many more operators take this approach now then and go down the automated route?
Yeah, I think it's taking off like crazy in the States. I think especially the professional storage operators, the REITs and the top 100 type operators are really starting to come around to it as the earliest adopters. It's a little bit of a challenge for the smaller independents because there is some cash outlay involved in the conversion, and so they're a little slower to come on board and write that check. But ultimately, I believe that that's where every storage is going to need to be to remain competitive, especially if the professional operators out there are getting on board for an independent, trying to remain independent and competitive. They're going to have to pull that trigger sooner than later just to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, because that's what customers are going to want.
Yeah, do you know what? There's one thing that you mentioned on the stage back in October 2019, and you actually said that 10 years from now, if you haven't got the ability to automate your facility, you will not be able to compete. And that, I don't know why, but that really stuck in my mind. And now, obviously, I'm 100% on board with that. And I
suppose coming sooner than 10 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And a question that I've got, I suppose, from a personal point of view, because obviously I'm stepping into this automation for the very first time. Do you get much pushback from customers, from your tenants about the automation? Do you get people who don't understand it or are a bit dubious about it?
No, I mean, minus a few black helicopter people that are, tinfoil on the head kind of customers. But no, generally the customers are all, they love it. The ability to share keys digitally.
Yes.
And not have to meet somebody at the facility to hand them the keys to a unit so that their sister can get something out of the unit or whatever the case may be. Just the flexibility it gives the customer to not have to remember to grab their keys when they go to the storage unit. I've done that myself. I've driven all the way to a storage unit that I had,
I have.
typed my code into the keypad, pulled up to my unit, and my keys are back at the house. So I drive all the way back home, grab my, not having to deal with any of that, because I definitely didn't forget my phone. That certainly made it with me to the storage facility. And so just the overall convenience of the entire system, customers love it. And customers of all ages, I think is key to point out as well.
Yeah.
The app conceptually is so easy to use. I mean, it's a garage door opener. It's push the button, unlock. People get that no matter what age you are. It's really intuitive. So it once we get the app on their phone and they see what it is, it's really easy to use, and customers love it.
Yeah. How long ago was it, Travis, that you actually implemented this in your business, the automated factor?
So our first facility opened in May of 2018.
Right. And was that a straightforward success? And how has that changed your business? How has that changed your approach as well for future developments?
Well, it was definitely a success. Like I said, that facility is 97% occupied now. We put permanent financing on it last year. We're able to take what we did at that property, and we've got a new project that we're breaking ground on in April, a much similar project. And that project will be all Noki as well. Yeah. And I tell people that I won't build another facility without it. It just doesn't make sense to me. To one of my partners, I think, said it best. He said, "Why would I build a facility that is outdated the day I open my doors?"
Yeah.
I mean, that resonates with me, and so I won't build another facility without it.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And so for people listening then, how would you go about it? What advice would you give them? Would you say dip your toes in first of all with e-signature, or would you say, like, listen, this is coming, you have to start implementing this now and jump on board the no-key technology, etc.? What would your advice be?
So to me, the no-key technology goes hand in hand with the online leasing, because the no-key technology is the last step of the process.
Yeah.
If you're able to rent an e-sign online, that's great. But Sunday night at 8:00, you don't have somebody there that can take the yellow lock off the unit. And if that's when the customer wants to move in and do business with you, you're already kind of upsetting your customer. The no-key system, being the last step in that process, allows that customer to do everything they need to rent the unit, in our case, verify their ID, get the text message, download the app, and move in Sunday night at 8:00 if that's when they want to do business with me. I need to be available for my customers when they want to be, and no-key is the last step in that process. So in my mind, if you're going through the process of being able to sign leases online, the last step of that process needs to be the ability to unlock the unit so the customer can access it. And that's what no-key does.
Yeah, do you know what? It's looking back at the interview, and I don't mind saying this. It's actually almost embarrassing to listen to myself on my trail of thought, because I listened to the Janice podcast about where me and you went on and debated the whole subject again. And looking back, honestly, I look back and I think that normally I consider myself a very much a forward thinker, and in this situation, I've gone against everything I believe in just because I didn't think not the technology wasn't there, because it clearly was, but I didn't think we was ready. But even taking away COVID, I don't think that COVID was the underlining factor why I've changed my mind. I just believe that it is something that is going to happen, whether you like it or not. This will come in, and if you don't have this in your facility, then you'll definitely be starting the race behind your competitors. And why would you want to give anybody an advantage? And I believe that everybody out there should be certainly thinking about this. And this is coming from a guy who was dead against it, first of all, when it first came out. So yeah, first of all, Travis, I want to definitely thank you for coming back on as well and being so humble, because if I was you, I'd be like, yeah, no, I was completely right. You was completely wrong.
No, never.
So
I mean, really, Dean, I just believe in the concept so much, and I understand that, I believe that everybody's going to get there eventually. And so I don't fault you at all for taking 18 months maybe, but I even when we were on stage together, I was like, no, Dean's going to get there eventually. But, I also want to point out though, that while using automation is where the industry is going, I do know how valuable customer service is to you.
100%, yeah.
And I still think you can offer that customer service through the call center. And the thing that I love that you do is your thank you cards every month. I think that's such a great touch to be able to send a customer a thank you card saying thank you for storing with us. And the fact that you take the time to do that is still a nice touch. And if a customer moved into your new unmanned facility and then, and they never talked to a manager and they moved in and they started storing, I think if they got a thank you card in the mail from you anyways, they'd be blown away. And that's a nice customer service touch that the customer will say, man, I'm so glad I stored there. I've never met a person there, but they're obviously very nice because they thought to send me a thank you card for storing with them.
Yeah, for me, the customer service, the customer journey, I'm really passionate about the customers, because over 25% of our quotes and actual move-ins come from either returning customers or people who have heard from word of mouth. So I am so bullish about that, because it's almost like your customers can be a walking, talking billboard for your business. And so I want them to almost feel obligated as soon as they hear self-storage, the word self-storage, they immediately feel a sense of obligation to mention your facility, your name. And I'm very, very proud that we've got over 200 5-star reviews in a very, very short period of time. And it's something that we're massively passionate about, and it's something that I want to keep them touch points with the customers. Even though it's going down the automated route, I do think it's very, very important to still not lose the sense of the customer care and how important it is for us. So just moving tax a little bit, how was the impact on COVID? How has it affected you guys across in America?
COVID was operationally, we kind of had to figure out how we were going to handle that. We ended up putting the plexiglass up in all of the offices. And at one point we were doing one person in the office at a time to maintain the social distancing. But from an occupancy standpoint, it's been very strong. I really believe that as people were kind of locked in their homes, they looked around and said, well, I could organize here, or I could do a little home improvement project over here.
Sounds
and
like
as they started doing that, they're like, oh, well, I probably could move this stuff out of here to get some additional room in my house because I'm cooped up in here, that I'm going to take this stuff to storage. And because storage was deemed essential, people were able to come in and move into the facility. And so our occupancies have remained very high. Our operating incomes were strong all through 2020 and so far into 2021. So we've been very lucky to be in the self-storage business because of that, people still had a need for storage in 2020. Other parts of the real estate world, people didn't have as much need for certain types of real estate. And so those real estate guys are in a much different place than we are. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, I do keep saying this all the time. I'm in a mastermind group, and it's probably a 50-50 split, to which there's 10 different business owners all sit around the table, and we all talk about, now it's on Zoom, and we all talk about our business. And some people are absolutely flying during COVID, and other people are absolutely decimated. They can't do anything. I was just talking because we're in lockdown in the UK at the minute still, and I was talking to my friend Ellie today. He's got 2 pubs and he's just lost all business. He's lost everything,
Yeah.
and he can't do any. It's no fault for himself. It's for what he's done. It's just the economic climate that we find ourselves in now. And so I feel very, very lucky and blessed to be in the self-storage industry. What do you predict will happen in 2021? Are you still bullish about the industry as a whole, and do you think we'll still maintain our occupancy levels or even improve?
I really believe 2021 will be strong. I would like to, in all honesty, I am starting. The one thing we didn't get to do in 2020 because we were being sensitive to our customers' situation was we weren't really able to push our revenue. We didn't do the revenue management that we normally do in any other year. And so in 2021, while we're not being as aggressive with rent increases, we have gotten back to sending rent increases. Because I think that we're coming to the backside of the pandemic, and eventually people's lives are going to get back to normal. And so we need to, on our side as operators, get back to managing our business the same way we used to as well. So I actually look for 2021 to be an opportunity to push revenues. I think occupancies will remain strong, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we actually took a backseat in exactly what you did as well. And I listened to AJ Osborne, a good friend of yours. I listened to his podcast, and I know that he stopped doing his rent increases as well. So we took a break from doing our price increases to our current customers.
Right.
But probably from June onwards, we've been just as aggressive as we always have been. And it's incredible because we haven't had, it's less than 2% pushback that we get, and we monitor every single pushback, every single price increase we send out. We've got a spreadsheet, and then we list for objection. And the great thing is, I mean, what happened the other day, we give a 12% increase to somebody, and they said, listen, I do think it's a bit unfair because it's a 12% increase. I've only had my stuff in storage with you 6 months. Can you look into doing anything about this? So what we did was, as soon as we got the 12% increase, we looked at them and thought, right, okay, we'll half it, we'll go 6%. That customer now thinks better of us because we've increased 6%. If we'd have done nothing, we wouldn't have had that touch point with a customer. But we've understood her needs, and then we've actually said, okay, yeah, we listened, we heard you, and we'll reduce it to 6%. And she's come back and said, that is amazing, thank you so much. And she probably has a better experience of us as a facility because we give her an increase. So yeah, the rent increases, we're very aggressive with them, and we're going to continue to be aggressive in 2021. I think we're very lucky over here because a lot of people have been furloughed, so people are still getting wages, or the government are certainly helping in that sort of situation. So yeah, we haven't had many pushbacks so far. So it's all sister. I'm like you. I'm very, very bullish for 2021.
Awesome. Well, I wish I could push 12% rent increases. I don't get that aggressive.
Out of interest, what do you do? How much do you hit? I know, listening to AJ just the other day, I think he hits between 6 and 12%. So what do you do with your increases?
We're 6% is our standard annual increase. Now, depending on the facility, that can get more aggressive here and there, but the standard is 6%.
Yeah, the difficulties come for us when we've had customers who come on a special offer. For example, the start of COVID, our prices for our units decreased, and then we look at our standard street rate now compared to what they came in at, and it's well away. We've got to increase the prices sometimes 42% to get to where the street rate is. So then you enter a whole new ball game where you are in trouble. So the last question for me then, Travis, if you could give one person, one storage owner, a little bit of advice, what would it be?
It's a great question. I would say that you really need to stay focused on your customer and really think about the customers that are coming into your facility and how they want to interact with you. Think about what those customers do with other businesses and how they interact with those businesses. and think about how you can have your facility mimic that experience they have at other businesses with your facility. And so that's automation, that's technology, and you should really be taking a look at that, because that's what customers are expecting from all the businesses that they interact with. And that's not going to be any different for self-storage.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. As soon as you said that you need to basically you need to meet your customers and you need to do what they want you to do, and if they want to use automation, we need to let them. And why are we stopping that progress? Why are we stopping them doing what they want to do? So yeah, I
Right.
completely agree, buddy. So if people wanted to find out more about you, buddy, and your companies that you run, where would they go?
You can go to selfstorage.coop, COOP, and that is the store local page. My contact information's there. They can get a hold of me at travis.morrow, MORROW, at storelocal.com. And always happy to talk with self-storage operators. I do it all day, every day. So if people have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you, Dean, for having me on the podcast again. I'm glad to have you on board the bandwagon, and look forward to hearing how your new project comes up.
Oh man, I am flying this automation flag now, buddy. I'm flying it up there for you, buddy. And what my virtual assistant will do, she'll put all the links for your contact details in the show notes. Anybody wants them, we'll put them in the show notes. And thank you very much for your time, buddy. I genuinely appreciate it, and I always learn something when I talk to you. So thanks for your time, Travis. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So so thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.